Hello everyone. Here's the latest earthquake activity report from the USGS. Since the time of this recording, there were 15 earthquakes. We have one in El Salvador, a 4.4. We have a 5.1 in Taiwan, 4.8 north of Svalbard. We have a 4.8 in the Kuril Islands, which, by the way, is where the Japanese government is considering moving some 40 million people to get away from the radiation of the Fukushima complex out there. Then we have a 4.9 in Volcano Islands, Japan region, a 5.2 near east coast of Honshu, Japan, a 4.7 near east coast of Honshu, Japan. We have a 4.5 off the west coast of northern Sumatra, a 4.7 Iran-Iraq border region. We have a 4.7 off the west coast of Sumatra again, 4.7 off the Celebes Sea, in the Celebes Sea. We have a 4.5 offshore Oaxaca, Mexico, if I pronounced that correctly. There's a 5.0 near north coast of Papua, Indonesia. And again in Mexico, 4.5. And finally, we have a 5.3 in Molucca Sea. Today, Thursday, April 19th, U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta stated, "Assad must go." In a speech in front of the U.S. Armed Services Committee, the House U.S. Armed Services Committee on Thursday, April 19th, Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta stressed the importance of the Syrian crisis and the U.S.'s determination to bring peace and stability to the region. Speaking of the violence Bashar al-Assad's regime is using against its civilian population, he said, "That violence has been brutal and devastating. It has put the Syrian people in a desperate and difficult situation. It has outraged the conscience of all good people, and it has threatened stability in a very important part of the world. The United States has made clear that the Assad regime has lost its legitimacy and that this crisis has no effective solution without Assad's departure. As the president has stated, Assad must go." Mr. Panetta goes on to say, "The situation is of grave consequence to the Syrian people. There are many others who are affected by what happens in Syria, including Syria's neighbors, Turkey, Lebanon, Iraq, Israel, and Jordan, and all nations with a vital interest in the Middle East." He continues, "There are legitimate questions about what steps are necessary to achieve this end, with some arguing for an approach similar to the one we took in Libya. The fact is that our recent experience in Libya is helping to inform the approach of the United States to Syria." You guys will have to read the rest of this for yourself. I was reading it from a printed sheet. It's a little bit difficult to fit the complete original text within the context of this window here. So I'll put the link in the box below and you guys can go ahead and read it if you care to do so. Meanwhile, in Iraq, at least 36 people killed in series of blasts in Iraq, as reported by the Jerusalem Post, a story done by Reuters. It states, at least 36 people were killed and dozens wounded when more than 20 car and roadside bombs, mostly targeting security forces, exploded around Iraq on Thursday, police and hospital sources said. The biggest attack took place in the northern oil city of Kirkuk, where 2 car bombs aimed at city center police patrols killed 4 people and wounded 24, police and hospital sources said. I was trying to stop traffic to let a police patrol pass. When it passed, a car bomb exploded and I fell on the ground, and police took me to the hospital. A policeman wounded in the face and chest told Reuters as doctors tended his wounds. He declined to be named. Heightened tensions between Shiites, Sunnis, and Kurds in the fragile coalition government since U.S. troops withdrew in December has raised fears of a return to sectarian strife of the kind that pushed Iraq to the brink of civil war a few years ago. Here's a short article on the virtual Jerusalem. It says Barack talks don't give immunity to strike. Israel has not given the U.S. a commitment to hold off on striking Iran, while the U.S. and other countries are holding talks with the Persian theocracy, said Defense Minister Ehud Barak Tuesday. I guess, in other words, he's saying that he's not going to wait. They're going to go ahead and do what they have to do. From what I hear and what I understand, even though I can't verify it at this point, there are plans to actually do an airstrike on Iran before they get a chance to move all of their facilities underground. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But you guys can read the rest of the story. It's very short. I'll put the link in the bottom, as usual. There is a lot going on in the world, and it's been, something that I've noticed, that a lot of people seem to be angry with God. They blame God for some of the loss of life, loss of loved ones, the devastation that's on the earth, the fear that people are experiencing because of those things that are coming on the earth, and they blame God. Well, back in 2001, I was doing a little research on the internet, and I come across this letter written by an unknown author entitled, "Why Did God Allow This to Happen?" Well, to be honest, I liked it so much, I kept it, and since they gave permission to use it at the bottom, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to read this to you. It says, Billy Graham's daughter was being interviewed on the early Sunday show, and Jane Clayson asked her, how could God let something like this happen? And Anne Graham gave an extremely profound and insightful response. She said, I believe that God is deeply saddened by this, just as we are. But for years, we've been telling God to get out of our schools, to get out of our government, and to get out of our lives. And being the gentleman that he is, I believe that he has calmly backed out. How can we expect God to give us his blessings and his protection if we demand that he leave us alone? I know there's been a lot of an email going around in regards to 9/11/2001, but this really makes you think. If you don't have time, at least skim through it, but the bottom line, something to think about. In light of recent events, terrorist attacks, school shootings, etc., let's see. I think it started when Madeleine Murray O'Hare, she was murdered. Her body was found recently, complained that she didn't want any prayer in our schools, and we said, okay. Then someone said, you better not read the Bible in school. The Bible that says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and love your neighbor as yourself. And we said, okay. Then Dr. Benjamin Spock said, we shouldn't spank our children when they misbehave because their little personalities would be warped and we might damage their self-esteem. Dr. Spock's son committed suicide. And we said, an expert should know what he's talking about, so we said okay. Then someone said teachers and principals better not discipline our children when they misbehave. And the school administrators said, no facility member in this school better touch a student when they misbehave because we don't want any bad publicity, and we surely don't want to be sued. There's a big difference between disciplining and touching, beating, smacking, humiliating, kicking, etc. And we said, okay. Then someone said, let's let our daughters have abortions if they want, and they won't even have to tell their parents. And we said, okay. Then some wise school board members said, since boys will be boys and they're going to do it anyway, let's give our sons all the condoms they want, so they can have all the fun they desire, and we won't have to tell their parents they got them at school. And we said, okay. Then some of our top elected officials said it doesn't matter what we do in private as long as we do our jobs. And agreeing with them, we said, it doesn't matter to me what anyone, including the president, does in private as long as I have a job and the economy is good. And then someone said, let's print magazines with pictures of nude women and call it wholesome, down to earth, appreciation for the beauty of the female body. And we said, okay. And then someone else took that appreciation a step further and published pictures of nude children, and then stepped further still by making them available on the internet. And we said, okay. They're entitled to their free speech. And then the entertainment industry said, let's make TV shows and movies that promote profanity, violence, and illicit sex. And let's record music that encourages rape, drugs, murder, suicide, and satanic themes. And we said, it's just entertainment. It has no adverse effect, and nobody takes it seriously anyways. So go right ahead. Now we're asking ourselves why our children have no conscience. Why they don't know right from wrong, and why it doesn't bother them to kill strangers, their classmates, and themselves. Probably if we think about it long and hard enough, we can figure it out. I think it has a great deal to do with we reap what we sow. Dear God, why didn't you save the little girl killed in her classroom? Sincerely, concerned student. And the reply, dear concerned student, I am not allowed in schools. Sincerely, God. Funny how simple it is for people to trash God and then wonder why the world's going to hell. Funny how we believe what the newspapers say, but question what the Bibles say. Funny how everyone wants to go to heaven provided they do not have to believe, think, say, or do anything the Bible says. Funny how someone can say, I believe in God, but still follow Satan, who, by the way, also believes in God. Funny how we are quick to judge, but not to be judged. Funny how you can send 1,000 jokes through email, and they spread like wildfire. But when you start sending messages regarding the Lord, people think twice about sharing. Funny how the lewd, crude, vulgar, and obscene pass freely through cyberspace, but the public discussion of God is suppressed in the school and workplace. Funny how someone can be so fired up for Christ on Sunday, but be an invisible Christian the rest of the week. Are you laughing? Funny how when you go to forward this message, you will not send it to many on your address list because you're not sure what they believe or what they will think of you for sending it to them. Funny how I can be more worried about what other people think of me than what God thinks of me. Friends, it's time to give your life to Jesus Christ. Just follow the link at the bottom and say the prayer sincerely, and you will be saved. God bless you.